games that are a bit different or trying something new. Now, please note, we're not really going to talk about sequels or anything like, Frostpunk or Ark 2, just some fresh stuff here. We got a lot of cool games to talk about, so let's get started off with number. And what it kind of is like the Metro series, the Stalker series, and maybe even a little Escape from Tarkov had a baby with a survival game. The concept seems awesome, seems like a no-brainer, total winner. It's just really coming down to whether or not this team can pull it off. From what we've seen, the combat does look pretty cool against a lot of humanoid enemies in some pretty dense environments where you scrounge for items to craft cooler weapons with tons of customizable capabilities for all of them. A little bit of a blend of sci-fi with the weapons themselves, getting a little more experimental. And just everything I've seen of this one so far, I've been loving it. It was announced, really shown off like 2 years ago now at this point. And with these small team, really insane looking projects, we've talked about many of these before, and sometimes we've been fooled, other times we've been completely blown away. So we don't know for sure about Pioneer yet, but we're keeping it on our radar just because the concept, the mashup of genres, the inspirations is just too good to ignore. Now, next over possession of the dwarves until some certain events happened that left some people high and dry, let's just say that. So now you're jumping back and making it awesome again. Now, in typical dwarf fashion, you'll be mining for resources and then using those resources to craft new and better gear, as well as excavate and rebuild Moria from the ground up with some good old base building. That base building in particular has us interested because it's not like Valheim where you're just like building in a big open space or like Minecraft or anything. No, here you're building in a condensed, contained mine area, which could lead to some really fun and interesting building and just scenarios. Now, you'll also be hunting and fighting off hordes of orcs and other creatures that lurk down here, and best of all, it's cooperative, so you can get together with up to apparently 8 players and just take back Moria together. This is another one where the concept is just unique enough, but really cool. Obviously, the property of the Lord of the Rings is something that we're super into, so this could be a match made in heaven. It's open world, it's got base building elements, PvE, crafting, all the stuff you'd expect, but with a really cool sci-fi sheen to it all. It's in third-person shooting as well, which is something you don't see every day with these types of games. I've seen some websites, including PC Games N, kind of dub it Destiny 2 meets Fallout, which is kind of clever if you think about it, and definitely is going to appeal to some people because like it has all the Destiny 2 multiplayer stuff, like raids, competitive stuff, endless dungeons, all that, and then just all the building, fun, crafting stuff of a Fallout game. But on top of that, it also just looks really cool. It's got a little bit of a different visual style spin to it. Like I said, seemingly very shiny, very high quality, a lot of cool sci-fi weaponry and armor going on, and this is going to be available on both PC and mobile, so I'm very curious to see how they monetize this thing. Still a lot of questions, but so far it seems like the survival community has been kind of into it, so maybe it's worth keeping an eye on. Next up at number 7, we have wizard stuff for crafting and developing and growing as a little wizard character, and of course killing enemies. The cool thing is that all of the wizardry aspects are highly customizable, from actually creating your wizard to experimenting with different types of spells and magic to create more powerful, devastating effects and just be more effective against enemies. The twist though is that messing around with magic is actually pretty dangerous, so you have to really kind of trial and error experiment and sometimes learn the hard way while you're making cool new magical abilities. It's a really, really cool spin on magic weapon customization that I haven't seen before, and to do it with friends in this cool sandbox survival style just really works for me. It's being published by Devolver Digital. You know they definitely have a good track record for finding weird, quirky, unique, and fun games, and as of right now, we just know it's releasing sometime in 2022. Next, over at number 6, we have Forever Skies. Getting around, which is just a very cool spin on the thing. Now, as is in the case with a lot of survival games, you'll be scavenging materials from ruins that were left behind, but a lot of it is built up really high to escape the layer of toxic dust sitting on the surface, and it just looks really cool and kind of unique. Now you can also descend down below the dust where things are different and much more strange. Now, I don't know why, but this is definitely giving us kind of like Subnautica vibes, but instead of underwater in a submarine, you're up above the clouds in a spaceship. Definitely unique enough for us, and it's coming sometime in 2022. Next up at number 5, we have the Sengoku Dynasty. Slowly building up your own village and becoming a leader, and you do it how you want. Do you want to be a badass warrior? Do you want to be a craftsman or a religious monk? The game is going to apparently give you a lot of different choices and ways to approach things while you're going out in the world foraging for food, to survive, to build for your family, and then a greater community filled with apparently unique NPCs, and kind of go from zero to hero, or like just simple guy to a badass legend. Now this is incredibly ambitious. The publisher behind this does have a good track record, but a lot really has to hit for this to work. You know, it has to be interesting, the character building has to be in-depth, the combat has to be engaging, and also they gotta just nail, like, you gotta really feel for this village you build up. You wanna feel like you actually have to fight for it. I really hope this game nails it, because just the idea on paper is absolutely incredible, and the glimpses that we've gotten of the game so far do look pretty gorgeous, but you can't really judge it until you fully get your hands on it. All we know right now is that Sengoku Dynasty is slated for the first quarter of 2020. Night. And by the way, all of the monsters look really, really cool. Incredibly cool. A lot of them look straight out of The Witcher, which is legit. But each settler is also a unique individual with different abilities and a cool look and needs. And there are also heroes that you can recruit to fight alongside you. You want to make sure you're ready for winter, because that's when the enemy hordes become even more powerful. You'll get hit with blizzards and dropping temperatures, so you won't only be battling monsters, but also the climate as well, in just like a good combo of a survival sim. Like if it's nailed gameplay wise, this could scratch a lot of itches. Night is Coming is slated for 2022. Next, down at number 3, we have Void Train. Now, if you're looking for a game, if you really came here for a survival game that is just weird and different, I'd say look no further with Void Train. This thing is wild. Now, we don't know a ton about it, but the basic gist is that you're kind of on like a traditional old school style train. You're on a track, but that track is kind of just like you're cruising through an interdimensional void. And the game is based around you building up the train and keeping the train alive, where sometimes you're gonna need to go out on a tether and fly out into the void while the train is moving to fight enemies and collect stuff. Along with that, it seems like you're going to end up in different dimensions where you're going to be able to hop off the train and go wander around and fight enemies and forage for stuff there. It's got a cool kind of slightly steampunk style to it. I'm not sure how the combat's gonna feel so far. It does look a little rough. A lot of the concepts look a little rough here, but this is another one where in theory it is an absolutely perfect idea and a great creative evolution for a survival game. And there's a lot of people out there that really, really love trains too, so this could definitely work for them. As of right now, Void Train doesn't have a release date, but you can wish list it on Steam at least and keep an eye on it, because I know we certainly are. Now down to number 2, we have Stranded: Alien Dawn. Now you might remember this game from a pretty recent trailer that was really stunning. Apparently this is a planet-based survival sim where you crash land on a planet and it's up to you to survive. So you're not necessarily completely primitive, you do have some tools at your disposal, you are capable people, and it seems like eventually you can build some pretty impressive things on a really, really beautiful alien planet. It kind of reminds me of like the opening minutes to the more recent Buzz Lightyear movie, but the game also is going to focus a lot around farming, but also managing the needs of your other survivors. So not only are you going to be building and strengthening your own settlement to benefit you and your farm and your survival and, you know, defending yourself from enemies and stuff like that, but you're apparently also going to be dealing with hostile climate and constantly changing weather. And I think what this game really has going for it is just the really, really unique creature and plant life, just stuff we haven't really seen before. So it's going to be fun to kind of have a low-key farming sim game where you barely even know what you're growing in the first place. This game, for what it is, just seems like a really badass combo of a bunch of different survival game staples, but in a way we haven't quite seen before. It doesn't have a release date, but we do know that early access is coming in the fall of 2022. Now, down to number 1, Nightingale is a really interesting one. Now, while it has your typical survival looking for this like apparent lost city of Nightingale. It all just sounds really cool from a story and kind of like setup wise. And even without the portal stuff, the game just does look like a lot of fun. You know, building up your own estate and recruiting NPCs to help with gathering resources and production is the kind of survival stuff that we really find the most addictive, and the combat seems fun too. You'll be making use of a variety of different melee weapons and really wild looking guns in first person combat. Nightingale also, interestingly enough, is going to make use of these realm cards, which you can use to change up the procedural generation of all the realms you'll be traveling through to kind of get what you need. But from a style and gameplay perspective, it just seems pretty unique and interesting, and we're excited to check it out.